strong electrolyte and weak electrolyte. Strong electrolytes undergo complete ionization and hence the conductivity of the electrolyte will be higher for the cases of the strong electrolytes, and for weak electrolytes conductivity will be less. The second is dilution of the solution. What is this dilution of the solution? If you see here very clearly, dilution means suppose you have a very concentrated solution and you are adding more and more of your solvent, maybe water or any other solvent, that means you are diluting the solution. Now when you do the dilution, what happens? The distance between the ions is basically going to increase, and due to this ionization will increase, and if ionization will increase, then conductivity will also increase. Okay. The third factor, that is temperature. This temperature, when you try to determine the temperature, you can write here, if the temperature increases, what is going to happen? Your conductivity of the electrolyte is also going to increase. Why? Because whenever temperature increases, it means ionization is going to increase, and if ionization is going to increase, it means that your conductivity of the electrolyte will also increase. Coming to the viscosity, what do you mean with the viscosity? Now see, suppose the solvent is having very high viscosity, it means it's very viscous. What happens? It becomes very difficult for solvent molecules to move, and hence ionization will be very less if the viscosity will be more. The fifth point, that is ionic attraction. Okay, ionic attraction, what it states basically, that is if the ionic attraction is more, then what will happen? Then the electrolyte ions will be staying very together, and hence ionization will be very less, and hence conductivity of the electrolyte will also going to decrease if ionic attraction will increase. Okay, this has to be kept in the mind while discussing the factors. So all the factors that are affecting ionization and conductivity of electrolyte are almost similar. They found a very similar relation, and that can be related. Let us try to discuss the previous things in detail. We have seen the theory of the ionization and factors affecting it. We have seen the Arrhenius theory of the ionization. We have also seen the pH concepts, sums related to the pH, applications of the pH. Then we have seen buffer solutions, its types, application of the buffer solution, types of electrolyte, that we have seen. Okay. Then we have seen the metallic conductors, electrolytic conductors, Ohm's law, specific law of conductance, then equivalent conductance, molar conductance, effect of dilution on electrical conductance, electroplating, electrotyping, electro-refining, p-type, n-type semiconductor, and also coming to the basic fundamental that was discussed, the electrode. Now by these things it is very clear. If you see the diagram here mentioned, that is, you have a metal strip, that is electrode, you have a solution, that is salt solution, that is our electrolyte. Okay, and this, for example, we are taking copper sulfate salt solution, and this electrode is our copper rod. What happens? This is solution is our electrolyte, this rod is our electrode, and when we are passing electricity into electrolyte, then the process of breaking of electrolyte in presence of electricity is called electrolysis. Okay, electro means electricity, lysis means to break, so this is known as electrolysis. Then we have seen the definition, that is electrochemistry, that is chemistry that is dealing with the transfer of the ions. Okay, we are here studying how the electron transfer changes the role in the solution. Then we have seen electrochemical cell, that is the cell which converts chemical energy to electrical energy is called electrochemical cell. Then we have seen the ionization. Ionization is what? The process of splitting of electrolyte into ions when dissolved in water. For example, we have seen here, suppose I am having NaCl. Then what happens if I try to dissolve NaCl salt into water? What happens? It forms Na plus and Cl minus ions. This Na plus, that is positive ion formed, is called our cation. This Cl minus negative ion is known as our anion. Okay. Coming to the next definition, as seen, positively charged ions is our cation, negatively charged ions is our anion. Cathode is basically our negatively charged electrode and anode is positively charged electrode. The basic concepts that were very important, that are oxidation is basically removal of the electrons, reduction here is addition of the electrons. Now what happens? Redox process, the process in which oxidation and reduction takes place at same time, is known as redox reaction. For that we have seen one example here in the diagram. Just take a look. I am having a zinc strip. This zinc strip, I am dipping it into solution of my copper sulfate. What happens? After some time this reaction happens. You can see here zinc strip is basically getting corroded. Okay, this solution is shown. After some time this becomes the case with the zinc strip. Now look here, zinc strip that is dipped in copper sulfate solution, then what I will get? ZnSO4, that is zinc sulfate, okay, plus Cu, that is copper strip. Okay, clear? Now this zinc after some time undergoes reaction with copper sulfate, and this Zn plus ion, that is cation, is going to replace our copper ion from our electrolyte solution. Okay, that is why reaction is found out to be ZnSO4 plus copper. Now if you try to write out the half cell reaction, what happens? Look here, this zinc, okay, it was having the oxidation state of the 0 earlier. From this 0 state, it is going to the +2 state. It means it is undergoing oxidation. But you know the definition of oxidation, that it is removal of electrons. So 2 electrons here are removed in the process. At the same time, the copper strip is basically accepting 2 electrons and it is undergoing to Cu. It means +2 state to 0 state. So this is undergoing oxidation, this is undergoing reduction. So this is our redox reaction. Okay. Let us try to move ahead. What are the concepts of the strong electrolyte and the weak electrolyte? Strong electrolyte basically are the substances which undergoes complete ionization. Now you all are very well aware what is ionization, what all these things are there. So these are the substances which undergoes complete ionization. For example, strong acid HCl and strong base NaOH. Weak electrolyte, they are the substances which undergoes incomplete ionization, that is acetic acid and ammonium hydroxide. Okay, let us try to move ahead. Arrhenius theory. From these diagrams, you can very clearly mention the Arrhenius theory of ionization. Looking at the diagrams itself, what it was stating, that the electrolyte, okay, when you are dissolving your salt into the water, that is electrolyte into water, then it will undergo dissociation into positive and negative ions, that is cation and anions. Okay, then second point, it says that at the moderate concentration there is always a equilibrium that exists between ions, okay, and undissociated molecules. This is the second point. Third point, that states that in the solution, whatever is the positive charge on cation, that is always equal to the negative charge on the anion. Okay, so this is the third point. Fourth point, whenever you are applying electricity, you are passing current through the solution, then what happens? Cations are positively charged, so they will definitely move towards negatively charged electrode, that is your cathode. And anions are negatively charged, so they will always move towards positive electrode, that is your anode. Okay, so these are the points. The fifth point, that is stating that properties of the electrolyte in solutions are the properties of the ions produced by it. And the sixth point says that electrolyte at the given dilution may not be completely ionized, but fraction of the total molecules are basically ionized, and this is known as your degree of the ionization. Okay, and we have already seen degree of ionization is basically expressed as number of molecules ionized divided by total number of molecules dissolved. You can see the example. You are given 0.04 moles of a compound that was dissolved in water, and after that only 0.02 moles are basically getting ionized. So now you can find out degree of ionization as 0.02 divided by 0.04, because our formula was here number of molecules ionized divided by total number of molecules dissolved. So you can write here 0.02 divided by 0.04, that is 0.5. Next is, we have seen degree of ionization, but it's our duty to see what are the factors that are basically affecting this degree of ionization. Among that, again, the first factor is the nature of the compound, that is ionic compound, that is electrolyte you are choosing. That plays very important role in determining degree of ionization. Suppose you are choosing a strong electrolyte, then what will happen? It will undergo complete ionization, and if you are choosing a weak electrolyte, it will undergo incomplete ionization. You can see here the nature of the solvent, that is polar solvents like water, they are undergoing more ionization compared to the non-polar solvents. The third point, you are seeing here the dilution of the solution. What happens whenever you are diluting the solution? Okay, you are decreasing the concentration and increasing the dilution of the solution. Then what happens here? More ionization is taking place. Okay, so here greater is the dilution, more is the ionization process. The fourth point, that is temperature. Greater is the temperature, greater is the ionization. We have seen the concepts, that was pH is defined as negative logarithm of concentration of H3O plus ions expressed in moles per liter to the base 10. Looking at the mathematical form, pH is equal to minus log of H3O plus. Now we have also seen the numericals for that as given here. You can see that we have calculated the numericals. Calculate the pH of water having 10 to the power minus 7 moles per liter concentration at 25 degrees Celsius. Look here, according to this formula that was shown, that is minus log of H3O plus ion, we are aware that concentration of H3O plus ions is 10 to the power minus 7. So you can write pH equal to 7 log 10, that is equal to 7. Okay, so this is the definition that is useful to calculate the pH of our water or any other solvent. Okay, at the same time you can see here in the slide importance of the pH, that is in the biomedical field. Okay, to know the urine and blood pH, it is very important. In chemical field, in biomedical field, why it is necessary? Because to diagnose any disease in the body, we need to know the pH of the blood and urine. At the same time, in the chemical laboratory, to find out the nature, whether the given solution existing is acid, base or neutral, that's why the pH information is very necessary. pH papers, pH meters, all these things can be used to find out the pH of the solution. In paper, textile fields, again you can also see in the medical field, that is you can say that in drug industry also pH plays a very important role, because the medicines that are prepared has to be prepared in the controlled pH conditions. In the city water supply, then you can see in the agriculture field, to know the soil nature is very important before sowing your seeds. So whenever you want to sow any seeds in the soil, you need to know the soil pH, and then only you can determine whether that particular seed has to be sown in the soil or not. Let us try to move ahead to the buffer solution. That is, buffer solution is a solution which resists change in the pH. Okay, there are two types, acidic, basic. Importance of the buffer solution, before that a simple characteristics, that its pH is very much fixed. It's not going to change with the dilution and is going to remain steady for a long time. Let us try to see the acidic buffer. You can see clearly acidic buffer is formed by mixing solution of weak acid. Again, what is weak acid? The acids like CH3COOH with equally concentrated solution of salt formed by that acid with strong base. Means you have seen the example that is very clearly shown that what we have stated. Look here in the diagram, just see, CH3COOH is our weak acid. Okay, salt of that particular weak acid with the strong base, it means what was base taken? NaOH plus CH3COOH, that reacts to form the salt of CH3CO, that is sodium acetate salt. This is acetic acid. This is the example of your acidic buffer. At the same time, when you discuss the basic buffer, it is formed by mixing solution of weak base with equally concentrated solution salt of formed by that base with strong acid. It means what? If I want to write down here, how can I write? Our weak base is here NH4OH. Okay, this is my weak base. This is mixed with salt formed by this base with strong acid. Okay, it means I am going to mix it with NH4Cl salt. Okay, this NH4Cl, how it is formed? It is formed by mixing ammonium hydroxide, that is strong weak base, with strong acid, that is HCl. Okay, so this is the example of your basic buffer. This one has to keep in mind. Next is, you can see here the applications of the buffer solution. Buffer play very important role in textile industry, dyeing industry, paper production, sugar production. Okay, all these industries are basically finding the applications of the buffer solution. It is also used to prepare synthetic foods. They play important role in chemical reactions like estimating water hardness, etc. You can see here the fundamental law of electrolysis given by Michael Faraday in 1832 to 33. We have discussed what was the first law, that whatever is the mass, or you can say amount of substance that is liberated at electrode is directly proportional to the quantity of current passed through electrolyte during electrolysis. Remember these words, that how much current you are passing, that is going to determine how much substance will be liberated at your electrode. Okay, this is the first law of given by the Faraday. Second law, it was stating that when same quantity of electricity is passed through series of electrolyte, the amount of substance liberated at different electrolytes are proportional to the chemical equivalent of the substances. Now what is this chemical equivalent? Take a look on this equation. You have